Gather round and welcome back to another edition of Todd Talks College Football. And today, folks, we're going to look at the Heisman Contenders for 2025. That's right, the big bronze statue, otherwise known as the Heisman Trophy. Ohio State has quite a few of them on their shelf, but a couple players may even be in the running for this year. We'll see as I break down my baker's dozen for the Heisman Trophy preseason list. See if we can get close to where it is at the end of the season. I've got some odds for you from one of the famous book sites, but this is obviously for entertainment purposes only. And please do not waste your ducats on a thing that's going to be voted by probably about 1,000 idiots. So let's go ahead, keep the ducats in your pocket, maybe throw a buck down here or there, and I'll tell you where I did to maybe make a little dinner money. And we'll see if we can hit one of these Heisman prospects for the Heisman Trophy in December. All right, let's start with the quarterbacks. Now, obviously the quarterback is the most important position on the field, and they're going to get all the praise and all the hate when it goes wrong. But quarterbacks are generally a very good Heisman prospect here. So we'll start with the ones I think have a real chance of making some noise this year in the Heisman race, give you the odds, and tell you where I think they can improve their numbers that may get them there this year. We're going to start off with obviously the best bet, number one bet on the board, the lowest odds, Arch Manning at Texas. Now, obviously, this pick is all based off of perception of what he's going to be, not what he has been, because he hasn't really done anything. 900 yards last year in some games that he started when Quinn Ewers was out. But Texas is going to be a very powerful team this year in college football, and whoever's running that offense this year will be in the Heisman contention. Just so happens this kid's name's Arch Manning, so the spotlight is going to shimmer on his head and on that white and orange helmet there in Austin, and everyone's going to have their eyes on it. The TV's going to be lit up. Any kind of successful season is going to keep him in the running. I don't know that this is the season for him to win it. I think he'll be in the top 5 for sure, probably top 3, but we'll see exactly where it ends up. But I think Arch Manning is the one quarterback in this group who it's a lot of it's based off of their potential, not past production. Keeping with quarterbacks, let's move over to Clemson and talk about Cade Klubnik. Now, Cade Klubnik is going to be orchestrating one of the most experienced teams in college football offensively. Great offensive line, great receivers, potential superstar freshman running back. He's going to have all the pieces in a defense that should be good enough to hold his opponents below 25 points a game. So Cade's going to have a lot of opportunities to shine here down in Death Valley, Clemson. He threw for 3,600 yards last year, 36 touchdowns. He ran for 463 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's a very good production. What is that? 43 touchdowns. I think Cade Klubnik this year could get up close to 50 touchdowns between rushing and throwing the football. So if he can get to that kind of number and that kind of production, they've got some big-time spotlight games that he's going to be showcased. Obviously, the first one with LSU is going to be a huge night game on Saturday night just to show the world exactly where he can be at this season. So I think Cade Klubnik is plus 900. I think this is a pretty solid bet that he's going to be in the top 5 if Clemson has the type of season that I think they're going to have, which will give him a real opportunity to win this Heisman Trophy this year, barring no injuries, and that he keeps performing on the same path that he's been improving on the last 2 years, and he gets that improvement this year. He could probably get close to 4,000 yards throwing and 40 touchdowns, another 500 yards rushing, and let's call it maybe 5 to 7 touchdowns there. And if he can pull that off with this Clemson team, he's got a real shot at winning this Heisman Trophy. Let's move back to the SEC in the other Death Valley. That's right, the LSU Tigers and Garrett Nussmeier. He is returning for a season that LSU is hoping is going to be a national championship or bust team. It might be a bust. We'll see where it goes, but Garrett Nussmeier is definitely going to be in the Heisman Trophy top 5 teams because they're going to be on ESPN a lot. ESPN's going to be pumping him up. He had 4,000 yards last year, 29 TDs. He did throw 12 interceptions last year. He needs to fix that a little bit and cut that in half. But if he can get this year, if he can get up to 4,500, 4,800 yards this year in this potent LSU offense, and he can touch 40 touchdowns, he is definitely going to be in the running to make a big splash. He's got some big time games with some big time television on his face. That's going to be at Clemson, at Alabama. He's got the Gators coming in. He's just got a very, very Oklahoma. He's got some real spotlight games that he's going to be able to shine. And if he can shine, old Garrett Nussmeier can bring another Heisman Trophy down there to Baton Rouge. Let's move over to South Carolina and stay in the SEC. And let's talk about Lenora Sellers there, the quarterback at the South Carolina Gamecocks, coming off a 2,500-yard passing year last year, 18 touchdowns, just almost 700 yards rushing, and another 7 TDs. It's a pretty solid TD ratio. But this year, he's going to have to play a little bit better than he played last year to get this team to where he wants to go. They got a little bit less talent than they did last year, South Carolina, but this kid's a game changer. If he can get this passing yardage up to around 3,000 yards, get his TDs to about 25, let's say, keep that rushing somewhere around 700 yards, maybe punch in 10 touchdowns. South Carolina gets to 10-3. Who knows? Or excuse me, 9-3. Who knows? 10-2. If they can get into that kind of range, that means Lenora Sellers put this team on his back, folks, and he carried them. And if he does that, and he's got that big game at the end of the year with Clemson, he's got a lot of games in between there, big spotlight games that everyone's going to be watching. But if he can go out and beat down Clemson, who I think is going to be probably 11-1 or 12-0 at that point, or 10-1 or 11-0 at that point going into that game, he could have a spotlight. He could really put on a show. I like Lenora Sellers this year. I think he's going to really have to carry this South Carolina team with these games and these matchups that they have. And if he can do that, he is definitely going to be in the Heisman running. Right now, he's about 1,700 plus 1,700 on the box, on the sports book. You can make that bet if you want. I recommend you keep the ducats in your pocket, but you do what you wish. So Lenora Sellers, South Carolina Gamecocks, look out for him on my Heisman prospect. All right, let's move to the Big 12 and Sam Leavitt. Yes, folks, one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I love this kid. He's dynamic. He's awesome. He's everything you want in the quarterback, and I just think he's going to have a really good year at Arizona State and the Sun Devils. He had 2,800 yards throwing last year, 24 touchdowns, 443 yards rushing, and 5 touchdowns. He can improve on those numbers. He won't have Scatterboo in the backfield to take all the glamour and highlights away from him with those big runs. So Sam's going to have to put this team on his shoulders and go out and gunsling. He's going to get this to about 3,500 yards passing this year, probably close to 30 touchdowns, run a couple more in and some big plays, lead this team to an Big 12 championship, or at least to the championship game. He will be in the running for the Heisman. The only problem he's got, he plays out on the West Coast, and a lot of people don't see all those games, so he'll probably get a little bit less TV time than some of these team quarterbacks in the SEC. So you're going to have to keep your eyes out, peeled a little bit more for Sam Leavitt, but look out for him. Right now, he's plus 2,000 in the betting line, and I like him a lot. I think he's going to throw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, and they're going to win a lot of games out there. Sticking with quarterbacks in the SEC, as you can see, we've got a little bit of a trend going on. We've already had Arch. We've already talked about Lenora Sellers. We already talked about Garrett Nussmeier. Now we're going to talk about the new kid in town, and that's the Oklahoma Sooners and John Mateer, coming out of Washington State last year, throwing for 3,100 yards, 29 TDs, rushed for 800 plus yards and 15 TDs. That's 44 touchdowns last year, folks, at Washington State. Can he bring that type of game to Oklahoma? Because let me tell you something, folks. If you don't know it, if you got a quarterback at Oklahoma that scores 44 touchdowns, that quarterback is going to win the Heisman Trophy, because that's just how college football works around here. Oklahoma quarterback has 44 touchdowns. You can chalk that thing up as a win. Now, the question is, can John Mateer throw the ball in the SEC the way that he did last year against Sun Belt, Mountain West, Pac-2, whatever they played last year? He wasn't playing SEC defenses. I saw him interviewed the other day, and he says, well, it's a little faster. Sorry, son, it's not a little faster. It's a whole hell of a lot faster, and it's going to be real fast for you when you get in there against Alabama and Georgia and LSU and all these other teams that have on the schedule, or you got to go to Tennessee, whatever. It's going to be a whole hell of a lot faster. It's not even in the same ball. If he can, he's in for a big season, and so is Oklahoma with that defense of theirs. So John Mateer, plus 2,500, transfer from Washington State to Oklahoma. Going to be exciting. We'll see him in the second week of the season when Michigan rolls in and sees the Boomer Sooner and the John Mateers, and see if they can win that game. John Mateer could be on the way to a Heisman Trophy day for the Boomer Sooner. Let's talk about another transfer, and this one's going to the Indiana Hoosiers, and that's Fernando Mendoza. Yes, old Fernando, moving over from, where did he come from? That's right, the Cal Bears, and he's moving to Indiana. He's got Kurt Cignetti's offense around him. He's got some talented players at the skill position. They can make plays, and he can wing and sling the ball, folks. He had 3,000 yards last year, throwing 16 TDs, and he is going to improve that by a bunch this year in the Kurt Cignetti offense. They do have 3 real lackluster games to start the season, so it's going to take them a little while to hype up this hype train. He's going to take them to at least when they got to go on the road to Oregon and Penn State, and he can maybe make some plays to get up in here. I really think plus 5,000 is the line. I think Fernando's going to have a great year at Indiana. We'll see if they can win the same amount of games as last year. I got them a little under last year's win total. Doesn't mean that he won't be able to make a lot of plays and throw the ball around and really get some time to shine in that Kurt Cignetti's offense and get a little bit more TV time than he got last year at Cal. Okay, let's talk about my long shot at the quarterback position. It is going to be Hilliard, Ohio's own Blake Horvath at the Navy midshipman. And that's right, folks, plus 40,000 here for old Blakey boy running the Navy offense. And last year he ran it like very few have in their careers. 1,246 yards rushing, 17 TDs, 1,353 yards passing, and 13 TDs. And you might think it's crazy that this kid could be in the Heisman running, but let me tell you something, folks. He was in it for a little while last year, and I think Navy's got a better team. They're going to be 8-0 going into Notre Dame, and if he can pull out even a really, really decent game against Notre Dame, and all the eyes will be on it, he could sneak his way into the top 5, and that would be a major win for a player from Navy since Roger Staubach won it back in 60-something. So Blake Horvath, again, a running, passing Navy machine, good kid, coming back for his senior year. I'm telling you, folks, keep your eyes out for him. Throw a ducat on him. I did. One ducat gives pay you $400 if the kid wins it. Who knows? College football is strange. This could be a team that is going to contend for one of the group of 5 playoff spot. Just keep an eye out on the Navy midshipman and Blake Horvath in this Heisman Trophy. All right, let's get off this quarterback bandwagon. Gee, so mighty, been talking about quarterbacks. Everything's about the quarterback. Well, we got a couple guys that I think could come out of a non-quarterback position and win this Heisman Trophy, folks. And 2 of their names are the same as Jeremiah. Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Love. It's the love train of Jeremiah's. Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State, 76 catches, 1,300 yards, 15 TDs last year. He is a rock star, folks. If you haven't seen this kid play, what the hell have you been watching? He is going to come on hard this year. Now, he's got to deal with a quarterback situation where only the starter has not been named yet. I think it's going to be Julian Sain. It could be Lincoln Keyholes. But combined last year, they completed a total of 5 passes. So they are going to need to figure out how to get the ball out of their hand into Jeremiah Smith's hands, and he could go all the way for a Heisman Trophy run. Now, plus 1,200 on the board, pretty good, pretty high up there for a non-quarterback. We'll see if he can get enough quarterback play to get him in the big, to get him enough catches, to get him enough highlights, to get him down. Now, where is it going to start? It starts with Texas. And let me tell you, folks, if you forgot, Texas last year shut down Jeremiah Smith. They're going to have the same game plan coming in this year. Ohio State has a secret weapon for him. I won't tell you yet. You have to wait for another show to find out what that secret weapon is. But he looks like a Max. And you're going to see the way he's going to open up this field for Jeremiah to make these plays against this Longhorn defense. So I like Jeremiah Smith as one of the non-quarterbacks to reach that Heisman Trophy table at the end of the season. We can't forget about the Love Train, Jeremiah Love in the Golden Dome at Notre Dame. This guy is a beast, number one runner in the country, and he is going to have to carry this offense until they get a quarterback playing up to speed, and I think he will. 1,125 yards rushing last year with 17 TDs. He also caught for 237 and 2 TDs out of the backfield. I really think Jeremiah Love at plus 4,000 is a really solid bet. He is going to get the workload on this offense for quite a while. They got some big spotlight games starting off with Miami. They got to go on the road to Arkansas, which doesn't sound like a lot, but what it'll be a spotlight game on ESPN. Trust me, they're going to put that baby on at night, and he's going to be able to shine down there in Pig Suey land. So I love Jeremiah Love here, rushing for a chance to win the Heisman Trophy for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I think he's another non-quarterback player that'll probably get up in that top 5 vote. Folks, you cannot have a Heisman Trophy Baker's Dozen prospect list without having an Alabama Crimson Tide player on it. That's right. It's got to be there. He's got to be on the roster. It's impossible not to have a Crimson Tide somewhere in the mix in the top 13 players in the country. And Ryan Williams is that guy coming off a sensational freshman season. He is going to be the dazzle maker, the playmaker, the deep threat. Everything you want out of that Alabama offense is going to run through Ryan Williams. 800 some yards catching last year, 8 TDs. Really carried the ball 4 times for 2 touchdowns. The kid's just an absolute electric playmaker, highlight machine, and you get enough highlights on the ES and the PN, and you can get yourself up there in the Heisman Trophy race. And I like Ryan Williams. I think he's going to make a big play this year. Alabama is going to be a good football team, a playoff caliber team, and Ryan Williams is going to be the spotlight player on the offensive side, getting that ball to making the big plays, big time TV for a must see there out of Ryan Williams. Right now at plus 4,000, that's a great value at plus 4,000 for Ryan Williams. You can't have a Heisman Trophy prospect list preseason without putting a defender on the list, and there's only one defender in the country that has enough to make it to the Heisman Trophy table, and that's Caleb Downs at The Ohio State University. That's right, folks, the number one defender playmaker in the country, bar none. No matter if he's at Alabama or Ohio State or wherever he's going to be at next year in the NFL, this guy has got talent. Now, if Ohio State gets him on some more punt returns this year, and he can break one like he did against Indiana last year and get those highlights, maybe 2, could be 3. Who knows where Caleb Downs can go, but I'm telling you, he's going to be the leader, the heart and soul of this Buckeye defense. And under Matt Patricia, I think that they're going to showcase some of his skill set, maybe not just in the backfield at the safety position, but maybe even some blitzes. They can find creative ways to make some plays with Caleb Downs, no doubt. And you never know. Last year, I heard something about maybe there might even be an offensive play here or there for Caleb Downs, and we didn't see it. Could there be this year just to get him a little hype? But I don't know. Let's get him on a punt return and break another one loose, and that should be good. I like Caleb Downs as my top defender on the Heisman watch list preseason. All right, we're going to finish the show with the freshman watch. That's right, people. Who in the freshman class could get their name in the Heisman talk in October? And I got one name for you, and I don't even know if I can say it right. DeCorian Moore, number one receiving prospect coming out last year, going to the University of Oregon, the Ducks. He's going to be wearing all the uniforms and all the hats. He's going to look like a playmaker, folks. This kid's a real time, big time superstar in the making. And if he can get Dante Moore to throw him the ball, you're going to hear a lot about this kid and maybe even get on the board for some Heisman talk. So Dak Moore, call him Quack Moore, do whatever you want. This kid's going to be phenomenal. And I got him as my freshman spotlight potential Heisman talk about player of the year. Probably won't win it because freshmen don't win the Heisman. But listen, you want to keep your eye out for this superstar in the making. All right, there's my Heisman watch list for 2025 college football season, and it's going to be an exciting one, folks. And I don't know who's going to win this Heisman this year, but we are going to have one heck of a time watching to figure out who it's going to be. I'm so excited to see it. I will say this. If John Mateer can get anywhere close to those numbers he threw up last year, 44 touchdowns at Washington State with an Oklahoma team in the SEC, I don't care if Oklahoma's 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, 11-0, whatever, 12 and whatever. If he can put that kind of production up, we know Oklahoma can produce Heisman candidates. Just look at the last few they've had just in the last handful of years, two of them playing in the NFL. And so I think if John Mateer can have the kind of year that we think he can have in this Oklahoma offense, he will be a heavy favorite. Arch Manning, if he can play well, he doesn't need to play well he doesn't need to play Heisman well for this Texas team to go far. He just needs to be real productive in this offense. Cade Klubnik is going to definitely be a force to be reckoned with, especially if he can get the 4,000 yards. Garrett Nussmeier, if he can get this LSU team over the hump in the other Death Valley and beat Florida, he'll have a real shot at moving up the board. I like Jeremiah Smith if they can get a quarterback, but I really love Jeremiah Love trying to run that ball for the Irish because he's going to be a big part of the offense. And don't sleep on Dak Moore or Caleb Downs and the freshman and the defender. This is going to be a hell of a season, folks, and I can't wait for it to get started. Remember, gather round in ALTT. See you soon.